Hello and welcome to another edition of our handicapping podcast, or videos, if you will. This is a Belmont Stakes Day edition, and we are going to cover three different races here on Belmont Stakes Day. Obviously, a different Belmont Stakes card than we're used to. The Belmont is shorter than it normally is. It's June 20th rather than the first weekend of June. There's a few different changes to the card. But I think it's still a great card, and I know I've heard some, critics already talking about small fields and things like that. But I think there's some real star power lined up, in the stakes races and some real competitive stakes races, despite them having short fields. Look, I know bigger fields are more fun to gamble on, but I do still think we're going to have some exciting racing and some wagering opportunities as well on this Belmont Stakes Day card. We're going to cover three races. We're going to cover the Pennine Ridge, which obviously features our very own Decorated Invader. He'll be a heavy favorite in there. We're going to take a look at the Jaipur, which is a grade 1 sprinting on the grass, and it features the comeback of Kanthaka. And then we are also going to talk about the Belmont Stakes, the main race on the card, the 1.125 mile Belmont Stakes, the one-turn Belmont Stakes, but a very exciting and fun race nonetheless. We'll jump right into it with the Pennine Ridge. And as we always do, with my handicapping calls, we focus on the pace first. And this is going to be the most important thing for Decorated Invader at the end of the day, and really his chances here. He is the class of the field, but where is the speed going to come from going a mile on this Belmont turf course? You really don't want to see them loping along on the lead. Our horse does tend to like to jump into the bridle and maybe pull at riders a little bit. So a faster pace is better for the rider as well, just to get him to settle and to find a nice rhythm where rider and horse are more in unison. For me, the main speed in here is actually probably going to be the horse to beat as well. It is Proven Strategies from the Mark Casse barn. This is a horse, as you can see, has a healthy race record. He's made 9 career starts. He's running some big races like the Breeders' Cup, like the Summer Stakes, 2 races Decorated Invader competed in as well. He had a nice campaign down at Gulfstream so far to kick off his 3-year-old year. He was beaten at the maiden special weight level, but then won 2 Florida bred conditions before running second after setting the pace in the English Channel behind a horse that we all know very well in Gufo. Gufo, very highly regarded from the Clement barn as well. So Proven Strategies, he's run against some of the top horses. He's run well in some of those races. He has some speed. Jose Ortiz gets aboard for the first time here today, and he is a rider that excels with horses that go to the front end. Immediately then you look for, okay, who's going to press him? Who's going to go with him? And thankfully for us with Decorated Invader, I do think that horse on the outside here, the number 5, Vanzi, who's coming off of a win in the Rushaway Stakes at Turfway, where he went wire to wire under Kendrick Carmouche. That's another important factor here. Kendrick is very much a guy who knows the benefit of speed. He knows the strength, that he needs to ride to the strengths of his horses. And he's typically one that's unafraid to go head and head on the lead with somebody. I like that Vanzi has some speed. He gets a 109 early pace figure from Time Form, which is comparable to what Proven Strategies has. I think these two will kind of be sitting first and second. And I don't think they'll crawl. I think that they will go a moderate pace. I don't think they'll go very fast. I don't think they'll go very slow. Expect half-mile times in the 47 and change to maybe 48 flat range. Anything slower than 48 flat would be a little bit worrisome to me. 49 would be, oh my God, they're crawling, and I don't expect that. You also have a horse like Maroon Maniac here, who broke his maiden on the dirt. He's lightly raced. He's not quite the level of these horses, but he does also have some early foot. And then one last thing to tap on as well, Mr. Kringle. He gets a 97 from Time Form with his early pace rating. He could be stalking the pace. And one benefit to this jockey assignment as well is Jose Lescano, very similar to Kendrick Carmouche, in that he likes to be a little more aggressive with his early riding in the early portion of races. If for some reason the pace is going slow, or maybe one of the speeds don't break, I could see Jose Lescano getting a little bold and taking it up. End of the day, this for me projects to be a race where Decorated Invader really just kind of shows his class. I think he's taken a step forward from 2 to 3. I think his Cutler Bay was an exceptional run. And really, no matter what tactics Joel Rosario decides to take, whether he decides to kind of sit the pocket and maybe save some ground, or whether he decides to go a little bit further back and try to circle the field, I think the class will shine through here. Decorated Invader will be my lone A on top. And I will be singling him in all multi-race wagers. If you want to play some exactas and maybe use a horse underneath, I would consider Venezuelan Hug. He made a last gasp lunge last time to get up in time under a pace scenario on Gulfstream that was not so friendly to him. I do wonder if this horse is maybe going to need a little bit longer distance, though. He seems like a long striding gray colt that, maybe will excel at things like a mile and an eighth, mile and a quarter as time goes on. Maybe consider Venezuelan Hug, but I think Decorated Invader is the class of the field, and hopefully we will be sending out some congratulatory calls and texts to all the partners after he gets the job done in the Grade 2 Pennine Ridge. Moving forward on the card, as we zoom out a little bit here and we move on to some other races, we will move down to the Jaipur, the Grade 1 Jaipur. This is one of my favorite races on Belmont Day every year. You know, it's 6 furlongs on the turf. You typically get some very talented runners in here. It's usually a bigger field than it is this time, but always very contentious. And turf sprinting is one of the most fun divisions, I think, in the country because so many of these horses can trade punches. It's very hard to consistently, string together wins at a high level as a turf sprinter, in the U.S. So, we'll start from the rail, and we obviously have the long-awaited return of Kanthaka. I know everybody anxiously, waiting to see him back in action. I thought his one turf try in the Daytona was a good effort. And behind some pretty talented horses as well. Eddie Haskell, a top sprinter on the West Coast. And Kanthaka was finding more and coming on then at the end of that 5 furlong race. He gets an extra panel today. Look, I know it's a long layoff, and all of us are a little uncertain as to what we should expect. But I do think Kanthaka will probably drop out and make a good late closing run and establish a good showing of himself in his return to racing here as a 5-year-old. The next horse here to look at is Alexandra. She's a closer as well. She's one that will be coming from off the pace. Kanthaka from off the pace as well. And look, this is the filly, or the mare, I should say, in against the boys. She's run very well against, the other top female sprinters, in her division. You see names like Morticia or Jolie Olympica. Alexandra's right at the top of this class for the fillies and the mares. Can she translate that class over, to the colts? It remains to be seen. I also wonder, is she going to get the real fire kind of pace set up like she got last time, 43 and 255 flat to run at? I'm not too sure if she's going to get that fire pace. I think the pace will be quick. It's a turf sprint. There's always going to be a fairly, quick fraction early on. But I do wonder if – I don't think we're going to see 21:43. I think it's much more likely we see 22:44. And honestly, for sprinters of this caliber, 22:44 is within their scope. The number 3 is Texas Wedge. This is a Peter Miller trainee, and as long as I keep playing against him, seems that I'll continue to lose money. I don't really like this horse. I think that the horse you want from the Daytona in May of 2020 is Stubbins. If you go back and watch Stubbins' trip, he had a much tougher trip than Texas Wedge in here. Look, Peter Miller pulls rabbits out of the hat all the time. I am not going to be using this horse. If he wins, send me a text on Belmont Day consoling me, because I am against Texas Wedge. We'll be putting a line through him. Moving on up the page to Pure Sensation. Pure Sensation showing up in the Jaipur for the 4th or 5th time here, this time as a 9-year-old. Just outstanding race record. He's about $1,500 away from making $2 million in his career. He's got 14 wins. He stood the test of time. I remember betting Pure Sensation in his very first start as a 2-year-old up at Saratoga, and that feels like decades ago at this point. But Pure Sensation coming off the bench, to my understanding, he's been training very well. This work here at Payson Park, the 48 flat Payson Park dirt track, not typically a track that's easy to breeze fast times on. He's ready to rock. He's ready to go. He broke very slowly in the Breeders' Cup, and I think that cost him quite a bit because nobody came from off the pace in that race, and he still managed to only get beat 3 1/4 lengths. Before that, he was stringing together very consistent, very nice efforts. This is a horse that has bad feet. When his feet are bad, he does not run well. To my intel that I have with the Clement barn that I'm obviously very close with, his feet are perfect right now. He does get Irad Ortiz, which I thought was a peculiar jockey booking, as Irad is not necessarily known for being the strongest speed rider. That being said, he is the speed of this race. There's another horse on the outside we'll talk about, but Pure Sensation should be out on the lead. And if the main other rival that has some speed here, the enigmatic Hidden Scroll, who just seems to light Twitter on fire every time he runs, he has a lot of problems in the gate, Hidden Scroll. Let's be honest. He reared at the start last time and then stumbled and lost John Velasquez. Before that, he was scratched a time or two down at the gate just for flipping over, acting up at the gate. Very hard to deal with. Watch him in the post parade. And, if you can, while the race is still loading, if Hidden Scroll is acting up quite a bit, don't expect a sharp start. And maybe if he doesn't break that sharply, or for some reason comes out of the race again because of his antics at the gate, Pure Sensation's loose. If Hidden Scroll doesn't break alertly, Pure Sensation is completely loose, and he is a danger in here. The other horse I think is a primary danger in here is Stubbins. I mentioned out of that Daytona. Really go back and watch that replay. I can't show it here on this call, but he was trying to force his way through jockey Umberto Rispoli on a spot on the rail. He was forced to check multiple times. When he finally did get through there, he shot by the field. This is also a horse, one of the only ones that made up some ground in the Breeders' Cup. He had a very impressive performance in the Woodford before that. Stubbins is an A on my ticket. So will Pure Sensation be. Those are kind of my 2 A's in here. White Flag is the other Clement runner. I just think he's a little bit of a cut below the class level of some of these, but he's not impossible to get a piece of it, maybe as a C or an X. I will also use Kanthaka as an A/B in here. Again, maybe going to need it off the layoff, maybe not going to get the pace set up like Alexandra. Alexandra maybe B or C, but really my main 2 in here are going to be Pure Sensation and Stubbins. Now we will move on to the granddaddy of them all. There's another horse on the outside, Long Twist, that you don't need to use in there. Excited to have the Belmont Stakes on Saturday. Obviously a much different Belmont Stakes this time, being run at a 1 1/8 distance at Belmont Park as well. Unlike many other racetracks, most racetracks at 1 1/8 distance would be a 2-turn race. This is a 1-turn race, and that makes it's a very important designation that I think you have to use in your handicapping. A lot of these 1-turn races at Belmont, they can be a little kinder to speed horses or horses that sit up close to the pace. So let's start with the pace, as we always do. I think the speed in here is going to come obviously from the rail with Tap It to Win. He had a massive performance last time out, just 16 days ago on June 4th in a tough 3-year-old allowance race where he got a 97 buyer speed figure. I like Tap It to Win as a horse. I don't know if that short rest off of a big career top is really what you want in here. I think he's what we call a bounce candidate. Sometimes horses, when they run a career best effort and they're forced to run back quickly again, will have a reaction to that, and they'll go the other way. So while Tap It to Win is the most likely leader early on here, and a horse that may attract some attention at the window as well after that performance last time, I am going to be against Tap It to Win here in the Belmont. The other speed should be coming from the outside with the late addition to the field in 4 Left for Doug O'Neill. This was the Dubai 2000 Guineas winner. That was against much lesser competition, and I really don't see many speed figures that make this horse possible in here. That being said, he's one you have to notice from a pace perspective. Another couple of runners that could press the pace from the outside, possibly Pneumatic. The lightly raced runner for Steve Asmussen, a son of Uncle Mo. He was handed his first defeat in the Matt Win. That being said, it came against Maxfield, who before his injury was probably going to be either the second choice or potentially even the favorite in this race if he decided to come to the Belmont against Tis the Law. Pneumatic with that outside post gives Ricardo Santana a lot of options as to what he wants to do. Maybe he could try to put some pressure on Tiz the Law and Manny Franco and maybe look to keep him in, or maybe just sit right on his outside, his direct outside. Pneumatic's a little bit interesting to me, but I really do think this race revolves entirely around the favorite, Tiz the Law. I've just been so impressed by what I've seen from his morning workouts, the videos I've seen of his workouts, not just his recent ones here at Belmont Park, but also down at Palm Meadows. If you look at this horse's tab, it's just astounding how consistent and how often Barclay Tagg has been working this horse. He is dead fit for this effort. I think he's the most talented horse in the field. I thought his Champagne, his one run at Belmont Park was absolutely spectacular. If you remember at that point in time, Green Light Go was a major player in the 2-year-old division, and Tiz the Law made mincemeat of him. This is his home track. I think he's dead fit. I can't find any real chinks in the armor. He should sit a nice stalking trip, maybe 4th, 5th. And really, Manny Franco kind of has options as well being on the outside. I know maybe Pneumatic and Dr. Post can pose a problem to his direct outside, but he's got a lot of horse underneath him, and this really could be Manny Franco's coming out party. This is a young rider on the New York circuit that has maybe been outshined by the Ortiz brothers, for some time. But Manny's one of these talented young Puerto Ricans as well, and this is his big opportunity. It could be his big coming out party. I'm probably going to just end up singling Tiz the Law in a lot of my multi-race wagers. Look, I know it's not the most exciting strategy, but sometimes you got to just take a free square, and I really do think Tiz the Law is a free square in here. Now, we talk about strategy all the time with these multi-race wagers. If you want to say, Joe, listen, I respect Tiz the Law, but the only way I make a real killing, or the only way I make a real fortune in the pick 5 is if I beat him, I completely respect that strategy and that approach as well. So if you want to use some potential C's in here, or some horses outside of Tiz the Law, maybe Tiz the Law stubs his toe or it just wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. I think some horses you can look to use will include Pneumatic. I think he's lightly raced enough and maybe potentially still improving. Dr. Post is one that I know the Todd Pletcher barn thinks very highly of. He's had some very strong works in the morning leading into this. And he's done nothing wrong in his 2 starts as a 3-year-old. He's by Quality Road. He has every right to take a step forward and have a shot in here. I don't think Jungle Runner's good enough. I don't think 4 Left is good enough. Like I said, with Tap It to Win, I think you're expecting a bounce out of him. Sol Volante is an interesting one. He's another one coming in here on short rest for Patrick Biancone. Kind of an interesting strategy into the race that he took to give him a prep at Gulfstream. He got the job done, which is what he was supposed to do. He got a nice Beyer speed figure of 95. He also got pace to run at that day. Look, if for some reason 4 Left and Tap It to Win go nuts early on, that will benefit Sol Volante. So if you think the pace is going to get hot, I think the pace will be more moderate. It won't be fast. It won't be too slow. But if you think it will get hot, Sol Volante is probably the closer that you want. Another horse that could be making up ground late is Max Player. And look, I know Max Player's efforts that we see on paper here are not good enough to win this race. He needs to take a big step forward and improve, but he hasn't raced since February 1st. And this is another work tab. I was talking about Tiz the Law's work tab. Linda Rice has put some serious drills into this horse. And especially when you look at the distances and the times, you have a series of 6, 7 furlongs, 6 furlongs, 6 furlongs, 5 furlongs, 6 furlongs, and all with fairly zippy times. Max Player is dead fit for this. I don't think the layoff fitness-wise would be my concern. It would be more, has he had enough seasoning to really blossom into a horse that can run a 9,500 Beyer speed figure and beat a field of this quality? I'm going to give him a shot that he can. I like Honor Code as a stallion. I think they're running better as 3-year-olds. I love Not for Love mares. He picks up Joel Rosario, which is a jockey who won this race last year. And I honestly think Joel's been riding in career form lately. Max Player's one I could use as a C. Modernist, another horse who could be up on the pace. I just think his one big win in the Risen Star was probably against much weaker, and he also was gift-wrapped a perfect stalking trip that day. I am against Modernist. Farmington Road, I don't think Farmington Road can win. He would be the other closer in here with Sol Volante. But he is kind of that plodding, still coming along type that maybe could get up for a piece of it and finish third or fourth. If you're a try or super player and you want to get creative, maybe you key a horse like Farmington Road in the fourth slot in your super and spread in the other areas, and try to get Farmington Road up for third or fourth and maybe hit the try or super. Best of luck to everybody with the Belmont Stakes. I am going to be singling Tis the Law on many of my tickets. I expect to see a tour de force from him in the Belmont Stakes. But good luck to everybody. If you're taking a different approach, I respect the hell out of it. So that's it for our handicapping call for Belmont Stakes Saturday. There's lots of good races on the card. There's lots that we didn't cover here on this call. If you're playing along, if you want, my opinions, shoot me a text, shoot me a call. I'll be watching all day, hopefully in a comfortable spot with some friends and family. So best of luck to everybody on the Belmont Stakes card, and we will be signing off here.